All right, welcome everyone. Welcome back to Community Connection. Vicki and I took a little bit of a break as we were both beginning my semester, and Vicki was helping get her children starting their academic year, but we're back. But unfortunately, Vicki's having internet problems today, so she's unable to join us for our program with the Sync Recovery community, but I will try to do my best on my own. Vicki's going to give me some feedback, I'm sure, after she sees this. So welcome, everybody. Again, as Vicki always does at the beginning of the program, this is an informational program to give you some ideas, and particularly this group's resources. If anyone who's watching this is in need of services or mental health needs, please reach out to your primary care doctor, your other support systems, in crisis, ER, 911, and please take care of yourselves. So with that, I'm going to welcome our guest, Laura Waits and Per Hagen.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. From Sync Recovery. And we're having our guest today because it's National Recovery Month for September. And I've been very fortunate to know Laura and the work that Sync Recovery has done for a few years now, I think. And I'm just an honor to have her as a guest today to tell us about the work that they do. So with that, I'm just going to start out with a question. That some of our listeners may be unfamiliar with this term about recovery and recovery community. So I don't know who would like to share with me who's included. What do we mean when we're talking about recovery and recovery community?
Well, you want to go ahead, Per?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I believe that the recovery community consists of anyone that is affected by substance use conditions, person who needs to stop using drugs and alcohol, family members, friends, but it also could mean the greater community who needs to be aware of the recovery resources that you're talking about, like schools and employers, healthcare professionals, churches. They can all be part of the recovery community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think recovery, or I don't think substance use disorder just affects the person that's using it. It affects everyone. It affects the family, like Laura said, and the entire community. So we like to be all inclusive and not exclude anyone. So our events are geared towards people with substance use disorder, but we invite family and friends and children and pets and everything to come and enjoy nature and enjoy what we do. So I really think that everyone is probably in recovery from something, and everyone is included.
Yes, I think that's an interesting point that you raised there at the end. I guess sometimes it's just recognizing it, right?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, let's talk about Sync Recovery Community. What inspired you, Laura? Maybe I'll start with you with this one. What was the inspiration? And if you want to go into mission and some of the other things that are on your wonderful website, about 4 components.
Okay. Well, I do believe that it was divinely inspired. There's an interesting backstory to creating the nonprofit that it is. Mm-hmm. But I will spare you those details and tell you that our first event was Rally in the Valley back in 2017. Mm-hmm. And I had met a group of people. I was asked to join a group of people that had come back from the Unite to Face Addiction rally down in DC. Mm. And they were so inspired, they wanted to bring this event back home, which brought together a lot of the recovery community that we just talked about. and inspire hope and get conversations going and breaking stigma and making people aware of the resources that are out there. And so they were thinking that they would like to have a nonprofit sort of administrate that event, and just happened to be there, and it's turned out to be a wonderful experience. I love the people in the Lehigh Valley community, and we saw how beneficial getting together is in a social environment, and how much support there is when you recognize that you are not alone. And so we were encouraged to start having other events besides the rally. And so we started with a basketball tournament, and we invited treatment centers and alumni programs and recovery houses, and it turned out to be a great time. And then we started doing outdoor adventures. I love to hike. I love doing things outside. And I have friends who like to do the same. I saw Pear was doing some of those things with an organization that he was with. I stalked him for a bit and asked if we could start collaborating on some events. And it has just grown from there. I think people are attracted to the things that we're doing because we're having fun. And I think that's what we try to encourage, is that being sober doesn't mean you have to live a boring lifestyle. It is absolutely not boring. We can get out there, have fun, and be healthy.
Thank you. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, Laura stalked me, so that was good. But I started doing adventure recovery with another organization. So I'm a person in long-term recovery. I haven't had any drugs or alcohol since October of 2010. And for me, that means my life's completely changed, and I'm full of hope, and I'm full of the promise that, you know, recovery is possible. So, like Laura had said, I like to get out there and break the stigma and say, hey, recovery is possible. We can do anything. We're capable of doing anything. You know, we're citizens. We vote. We have rights. We're people, and we need to be recognized. And I think that's really important. And so I thought about what my passion was as a child, and it was, you know, what did I do that like inspired me? So going outside and exercising is what I did. You know, as soon as I got off the school bus, I was outside running around, and I would run around until mom and dad screamed and yelled for me to come inside. And I loved it. And you know, that went on into my teenage years. And as I got into substance use, it all kind of went away, and the substance became my passion. And you know, putting that down, I had to reignite something in me that I could go to, you know. So if I'm feeling stressed, or if I'm feeling anxious, or if I'm having cravings, I can go to nature, right? That's been my passion, and that's been where I find peace. And there's so many benefits to being out in nature and getting exercise: lowering anxiety, lowering depression, helping the immune system, oxygen, vitamin D. I mean, it just, the list goes on and on and on. It's like a perfect, I don't want to say drug, but a perfect thing to go to. You know, that's what inspired me. And then, you know, the ability for me to give that back as someone in recovery to other people in recovery is amazing. You know, to see someone's light turn on and go, oh my gosh, nature is awesome. And you know, or we played volleyball the other night, and the guys were just, you know, having a blast. And then we talked about gratitude afterwards, and how grateful they were for everything, and how their life is changing, and being outside and exercising and being part of a group is part of that. It's amazing, it really is.
So a couple of things that you both brought up, and I'm certainly in, you know, in our program, we have a co-occurring disorders track. So I'm not that that's my area of expertise, but by being in this program for the last 20 years, I've learned and gathered information. And so how come there's still stigma? Both of you mentioned stigma. And how come at this stage, we're in the year of 2020, we're still having to deal with the stigma issue? I know in the mental health side, we still talk about it, and now you've brought it up here in substance use. So how come we're still struggling with that as a society, do you think?
Well, I think a lot of it is we're still stuck in some old beliefs and some old language, and a lot of that needs to change. An addict, alcoholic, even that is stigmatizing language. It's a person with a substance use disorder now, which I don't think nearly enough people know about or use, and so people are stigmatized by the language and stigmatized by what they're called, and I think it needs to. I don't think it's shown enough the good things that people in recovery do. The bad things are always brought up, which, there are bad things that happen with people who are suffering from a substance use disorder, but there are also amazing good things that happen once people are in recovery, and that's not shown as much as the bad things, and so that automatically leads to a stigma. So we're trying to show that, there's good, and we're doing good.
And I hear one of the things in both what you're saying, part you were saying, like with the volleyball, and the sense of not being in isolation, but being in group and being connected, and that sense of connectedness, and how that seems to be a beneficial aspect of getting together and doing these adventures or doing these activities. Is that kind of what you're seeing, or from your perspective and your work?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just led a small hike the other night, and it was the first hike for one of the guys, and another one had been to and we're working with people who are in like a treatment program, a treatment court program, and so some of them are mandated to be there, and the one guy said, can I come to more than the ones I'm mandated to be at? I'm like, yeah, absolutely, come. And
Wow.
this is awesome. It's so much better than just, talking and sitting inside in a room. We're out being active and experiencing things. And I think the experience, so we're walking along and we're doing exercise and we're walking along this path, but we're talking about life, like all different things of life, like kids, relationships, work. All of it comes out when you're walking and when you're in a group outside. I don't know what that is. There's something, it's just freeing and opening about being out in the woods and being outside. And people will share from their heart, and they feel connected because other people will share back, and they're not holding back. So it fires me up.
Maybe
Laura.
Mark knows the brain chemistry that's behind that walking and talking and opening up bit, but yeah, it happens.
Well, yeah, no, there's a lot of wonderful research that even talks about how being in nature just lifts people's spirits, or even if you live in a city, the closer you live to a green space, your well-being goes up. So there is something about us as human beings needing to be out in the openness, as you're saying. So I know it resonates all that you're saying about how this kind of fills you. But then you're in relationship, which, from my limited understanding, that sometimes when you're into substance use is that you wind up being in isolation, and we're not meant to be isolated beings. We're meant to be in relationship with each other. So you're kind of helping people find ways of building new connections, learning new ways of connecting. Is that part of the process too for the two of you that you're seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. Drugs and alcohol. I think it goes back to that stigma thing, and it's not just the community, but you start to stigmatize yourself, right? Because we are in isolation, we're feeling guilt and shame about the things that we're doing while we're using, and we don't want to share that, and we're embarrassed to be around people. We don't want to talk about it, and so this helps talking again. It gets conversations going.
Yeah.
And being with other people, with our peers, we feel comfortable talking because they know where we're coming from. We've
Yes.
got similar experiences, right?
Right.
So we're not alone.
Wonderful. I just want to follow up one more thing with Laura that you responded with. You talked about treatment programs and recovery houses. So is that part of what you're providing, is when people do go through a treatment program and they come through the process, is that what you're providing, an ongoing sort of opportunities for them? Because otherwise, maybe sometimes even in the mental health world, you sort of complete a program and then you're sort of then just left to your own devices or your own means of trying to, what do I do next?
To navigate the system.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. So is
yeah.
that part of what your organization does too? And
Absolutely. It's the aftercare, right, Per? It's
ah,
there's short-term treatment models when we know that the longer people can maintain some sort of support for the long term, the rate of recidivism drops. So yes, it is absolutely a goal of ours to keep people connected for as long as possible. I think the beauty of our program is that we attract not just the newcomers, but there's people out there that have years and years of recovery. And so they're able to share their experiences and what they've been through over the years and give people an injection of hope. Gosh, remember that hike we did at Fox Gap? I think we had over 100 years of people in all together, over 100 years of sustained recovery, right? Yeah.
That must have been powerful. Yeah. Thank you for that. And you mentioned gratitude, and I know one of the other programs you do is sync service, so volunteering. So it seems that you're, trying to bring in other skill sets to create that sense of hope for people.
Yeah. So the volunteering is really important. It was really important for me, and I believe it's important for people in recovery. And I don't know if there's a brain chemistry to it, but giving back and helping other people makes you feel good, right? So and I'm following my own recovery path. That's what I did. I got involved in volunteering for this organization, and then the volunteering turned into a career. And I've seen that happen with people who are coming in. They come in as a participant and their head's kind of down and they're low and they get involved and they're like, oh, this is fun. I like doing this. What can I do something more? And then how about volunteering? How about volunteering to run one of these groups? So we put people through a training, volunteer orientation, a group leadership training, a peer mentor training, and then they can give back. And then that kind of opens up a whole world, right? So if you're volunteering as a group facilitator, not only does it look good on a resume, but you learn so many skills, and then you can continue on with your education. Like I did, I became a certified recovery specialist and a family recovery specialist and an interventionist, and then it becomes a career. And I've watched that happen with numerous people, and it's amazing, and it works.
Yeah. Now, so you mentioned those titles. Can you tell us a little bit about those different roles, certified recovery specialist, and you also mentioned interventionist. Can you give us some definitions about what those roles are?
Sure. So a certified recovery specialist is a certification from the state. So you go through about 60 hours of training and then sit for an exam. And the training talks about the disease of addiction. It talks about motivational interviewing, different ways to deal with people, building recovery capital, building a recovery plan, and it gives you tools to work with someone, one-on-one. And then there's another component, which is the family recovery specialist, which teaches you how to work with families, because they are in recovery too. So they need to, kind of go through the same thing in a little bit different way, but kind of go through the same thing that the person with substance use disorder is going through. And then I took a training to be an interventionist, which is working, with families to get a loved one into a treatment system. That's someone that's struggled, and I generally bring the whole family together, and everyone writes letters to the person, and we sit down and do an intervention and get them into treatment. So the certified recovery specialist kind of gave me the tools that I needed to, like, I know how to talk to someone as a peer, but it just gave me like the tools, how to do motivational interviewing, how to do active listening, how to, not just be butting in and telling people what they should do, but actually enabling them to create their own path, to create, to empower them to be their own advocate. It's amazing if you flip that all around, instead of, pointing the finger and saying, you have to do this, to, how can I help you? It changes the whole dynamic,
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, I just hear the passion in your voice. So what are your favorite aspects of doing these different roles that you have?
I guess the favorite thing would be watching the lights go on in someone, being able to reach someone, and like I said, I saw people that would come in as a participant and then start working with them, and then they become a volunteer, and then their life just changes, right? And you can see things, and that's really, I can't put a word to the feeling of that. I'm sure maybe you probably have experienced the same feeling in the work that you do, but it is empowering and passionate, right?
Yeah. So sometimes joy, you can't find words when you're experiencing a moment of joy like that.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Wonderful. And so I see you have yeah, as you lean forward, I saw you had a shirt. You have very nice. Thank you. and so you each have a role. So Laura, could you just let our listeners know, what is your role with the Sync Recovery Foundation? What is your role with the organization?
I always have a problem with this, but I am the executive director of Sync Recovery. I sometimes feel like the chief cook and bottle washer, but I'm thankful to have a lot of support and people who want to help with this organization. It's a beautiful thing, and Pear is a trooper. So passionate about what we're doing, and so that's my role.
That's your role.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to make sure everyone's clear.
Administrating the events and making community connections.
Yeah. Yes, which I've experienced firsthand in seeing your work. So
yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. So one of the things that I've been keeping close touch on, and some of our other programs also have touched on this, is how is the pandemic, how have you seen the pandemic affecting this population? We see in the general media, reports of increases of depression, increasing in anxiety as people are trying to navigate the uncertainties of COVID. And so I just was wondering if you noticed anything in the work that you're doing or within the community itself that you're seeing indications that this is also having, creating more stress maybe than typically that you would typically before we had COVID. So any thoughts on what you'd see those, and any recommendations that you might give to someone to help them to maintain their sobriety during this time?
You want me to take that? Okay. So it's been a little roller coaster, I guess would be the best way to describe it. So when the pandemic first started in March, I don't think people really knew exactly what to do. So there was a lot of disappearing. I think people kind of disappeared and isolated and stayed, away, and we're all right. We're gonna shelter down in place and just ride out the storm, and which is not good for someone with a substance use disorder, because isolating yourself is like the absolute worst thing you can do, because we start talking in our heads and we believe everything that we're saying in our heads, and usually it's not good stuff. So I saw people disappear, and then I've seen people reappear, and I've seen people reappear in some bad shape. I've seen some people, reappear okay, but I think it's had a toll on the recovery community. Meetings shut down. People that went to mutual support groups, they all shut down. We had Zoom, which is what we're doing now, so that was a way to connect with people, but quite frankly, it's not the same as being in person and talking to someone and getting that emotion and seeing their hand gestures and
Body language and the energy.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think a lot was lost there, and meetings are slowly starting to open back up again, which is a good thing. But I think it really took a toll on the people in recovery. I think especially the isolation really took a toll on people. So what can you do? I mean, if you can do Zoom and you're comfortable with it, that's great. There are Zoom meetings for people 24 hours a day from all over the world, and so that's opened up a whole new area of recovery. You can find recovery online on a Zoom meeting anytime. You could go to a meeting in Ireland. I could go to a meeting in Australia. That's amazing. So I found that really cool. But as far as people connecting in their community, that kind of went away. So meetings are starting to open back up, but Sync Recovery is here, and we're doing things outside, and I think we can connect with people where they've been lacking in the past and being shut in. So getting outside is, again, that's my thing, is get outside, because that's, I think, where the energy is, and we do recovery meetings at every one of our events. So we'll do different things, like I'll ask people to find something in the woods that represents their recovery, and we'll talk about that, or we'll do a topic meeting, but we always talk about recovery. So we do have that group meeting, which I think a lot of people have been missing because they've been shut in.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that and for those suggestions. And we'll at the end of the program, we'll give people we'll give you an opportunity to tell people how they can contact you in order to get connected to what the activities that you are doing. I know, Laura, one of the activities, because our college has been involved with, is Rally in the Valley. So I'm just wondering where which is a fabulous event, very uplifting. I think as per just as, you shared that description, that's been my experience in that whole day. It's just very uplifting, joyous, people having fun, families having fun, just a great energy level. What's happening for 2021? And we know we had to cancel for 2020. Yeah, for 2020. What do you know? What can you say?
That was really heartbreaking. But 2021, we're still up in the air. I think just like a lot of people who are planning big events have to just play it by ear. We're sort of putting our feelers out and seeing how our committee feels about it. We want to get input from the sponsors who sponsor that event feel about it. And then, of course, being at Arts Quest, we need to know how they want to handle it, because in 2019, as you know, we had around 4,000 people come, and I don't know that that's going to be possible for 2021. But we do feel that it is an important event for the community, and so it may look a little different, but we will. We want to continue on. We do.
And maybe I should have backed up and asked you just to maybe first, there might be some people, I can't imagine who, but there might be some people who don't know what Rally in the Valley and what occurs at Rally in the Valley. So maybe you want to give us a little, your take and your experience, and that may encourage some people as we go forward in this decade, and eventually we will all be able to be together again. Give them an idea
I am
of what
sorry, I
it
take
like
for
that.
granted Rally in the Valley runs me for So I take it for granted that everybody knows what Rally in the Valley is. However, it is a more or less a sober music festival, right? Where the community comes together, and we do all sorts of different activities. We had speakers, six bands in 2019. We had recovery meetings at the rally. Gosh, I think we had over 75 service providers that came out and supported, shared with how they can help with people with substance use conditions. And it's just a really fantastic day to connect. We were able to bus people in from, what was it, Per? Not 8 or 9 different counties.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's really special. We are able to talk about it openly on radio stations, and so with commercials and advertising and things like that. So we're opening up conversation and full circle here, breaking the stigma and showing that people in recovery do recover for long term and do fun things. And so we'll see.
Yeah.
Am I missing anything, Mark? You've been there. There's food. There's good food.
Yeah. And just a lot of camaraderie and support. Paul, you want to share your experience?
Sure. So I love Rally in the Valley. My favorite thing last year was the adventure recovery stuff, because that's what I like to do. So there was a gentleman there who runs an adventure recovery group up in Connecticut, and he did slacklining and a fire ceremony and all kinds of neat stuff. And you know, the bands were amazing. So some of the bands are in recovery, and that's pretty amazing. And I think there was naloxone training there too, right? They're not, the county provided that, or
actually Lehigh Valley Health Network
okay.
did that. Yeah, they're very supportive of that event. Yeah,
I think you really see the Lehigh Valley come together, and you see a lot of different entities be brought together to talk to each other, which from my perspective is in the mental health field is so important to get people to break out of their silos and figure out how do we work in an integrative manner, and make that synthesis so that it's easy to help the people that we're working with to move through these systems to continue to get the assistance they need no matter where they are in their journey. So I think that's what I see a lot of exchange between organizations, people getting to know each other, and then that helps prevent people slipping through cracks as they're moving through their own journey.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
So,
And I think that's what we want to do, is to bring the community together. And I think of it kind of like a web, where it gets less and less, where there's less and less gaps, and the connection just gets stronger and stronger. And I think that's an important part of what the recovery community organizations can do for people in recovery. So.
And going back to your earlier comment part, I think it's a great event for everyone, because we're all possibly in some state of recovery from something. So we're surrounded by a culture that loves to distract us with many shiny things, and not spend time with ourselves. I think that's the other thing. It's very the interpersonal experience there is a welcome change from all the distractions that are around us.
I like what you said about breaking the silos too, because that's a tough thing. We're all kind of doing similar but a little bit different things, and we're all kind of working in our own lane, and to bring everyone together to help each other, like all the treatment providers to help each other, is that's the way it should be. To provide a complete continuum of care for someone, we all need to work together. Yeah, I love that you said that.
Yeah, well, it's a goal that we all can continue to work for, and maybe that's a mission we can get going in the Lehigh Valley, since it's a small, tight community where a lot of people know each other. We could maybe be a model for that in the near future. So as we're getting end of our time, I just want to make sure that you give an opportunity. So if someone listening to this program wanted to participate in any of your events, how's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Well, our website is syncrecovery.org.
Mm-hmm.
And we are also on social media. We have a Facebook, Instagram presence, and also on LinkedIn. But that's at that funny A, Sync Recovery. And there's also a private group that Per started on Facebook, and it's Sync Recovery Adventures.
Okay.
And it's for people who are like-minded and want to adventure through recovery and share their experiences. So
Great.
yeah, I think that's the best way. We do have an event calendar on our website.
Okay.
It's pretty full these days, thanks to Northampton County, and them offering us to be able to work with their recovery court participants and the people that come through their recovery centers. So we've got something going on 3 or 4 times a week. So there's no reason we can't stay connected.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you share your latest, what's the next event that you have coming up?
We are doing a service project in Upper Bucks County. We're doing a tree planting project. On the 11th, we're going to be doing a ropes course with zip lines and a free fall right outside of Doylestown. And then I think we're going camping.
Camping. Yep.
16th, 17th, and 18th, and people can come to camp, or they can just come and do camp-like stuff. But also during the week, we have on the first and last Wednesdays, we have creativity projects, so people can do art projects. We're going to be working with Arts Quest, and I think in October, we're going to be doing improv classes. We have a book study that happens on Monday nights, so we've got a full calendar and lots of activities. We call it action-based peer support.
Don't forget the nutrition group.
Oh, and the nutrition group on Wednesdays. Yes, yes. Per's sister is a national board certified nutritionist and does a very nice job of relating mindfulness and nutrition. And I know for me that has been a huge part of my mental health, is taking care of my health. It's not just physical, it's mental as well.
Right. Mind, body, spirit. Yes. Well, and this is all on your website on the events calendar. So if someone couldn't write all this down, they should go to your website and pull that calendar down under events.
Right.
To see that. So what a fabulous resource. What a gift to this area that the both of you are providing for us all. So I don't know if there's anything that you would like to add before we end. I'll give you a moment. There's something that you want to be sure you want to leave our listeners with. I'll give you an opportunity for that.
I just want to go ahead, Per.
Go ahead. You start.
I was just going to thank you, Mark, for the opportunity to be here today and talk about it, to talk about Sync Recovery. It was one of my favorite topics. So I appreciate you inviting us on today. Thank you very much. And I hope that Chestnut Hill and DeSales and your listeners get something that they need out of this today. So thank you.
Thank you for taking the time and sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to kind of echo what Laura just said. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk about what we do, and I hope someone who's listening, it strikes a chord with them, and they want to get out and do something and if it's not with us, or they're not into to the outdoors, find a passion. If you're struggling with substance use disorder and you're in recovery, find a passion that you can go to and be happy with. That's it.
Good. Well, on that note, on that very hopeful note, thank you both for taking time out of your day for sharing all the wonderful work that you're doing. And we we'll look forward to having you on at another time.
Yeah, maybe a
into-
couple months before the rally.
Yes, I think that would be a great time. Everyone fired up and ready for the rally in the Valley. It's in May, right?
Yeah, May. Oh gosh, I forget the date.
Yeah, I looked
It's
at
on the website.
It's on all the more reason to please check out their website. All right. Thank you for listening. Thank you both. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.